Cranking on Mustang, I could fight the cops with my bare two hands. End up in jail, eating microwave hell, but I'm a little smarter than that. I could even wait till the night.
Good afternoon, Bryan College Station. Welcome to the Beliucci Hour lunch, live on Sports Radio 1150 The Zone, 102.7 FM. I'm your host, Ryan Brauninger. We are on the stage at the Tap on Harvey Road, as we are every Monday and Thursday, bringing you 1 hour of all things Texas A&M sports. If you're driving around town looking for a place to come grab lunch, come check out the Tap's great lunch menu. $8.49 burger basket, $8.49 taco salad today. Those are the specials. Comes with fries and a drink. That burger basket does. And they've also got an assortment of delicious options on the menu. Got some new signage here at the Tap. I know that John was talking about upgrading some stuff around here, so it looks great. And don't forget Monday nights karaoke, and then Wednesday nights piano bar. I saw some Snapchats from in here last night. Looked like a lot of folks were having a really good time, especially on this stage. So always something going on here at the Tap. A lot of stuff going on this weekend in Aggie sports. The Aggie basketball team, I thought, again, another win, and they playing better basketball. Not the competition, you could argue, or no, you don't even need to argue. The competition has not been great, but they're playing a better brand of basketball, and that's encouraging to see. But for me and for a lot of Aggies, this is like Christmas Eve, as Aggie baseball opens their 2019 campaign tomorrow at home against the Fordham Rams, 6:30 first pitch over there at Olson Field at Bluebell Park. We put in our predictions on TexAgs for the season. Those will come out tomorrow morning. I think this is a regional host caliber team. I think it's a team, if they get hot at the right time down the stretch, the talent. What I'm saying is the talent is there for them to make a run back at the College World Series. And now if they were to get that far, if things work out and the chips fall in the right places and they make an Omaha run, they've got the frontline arms once they get to Omaha to make some noise. And those two left-handed pitchers, John Doxakis and Asa Lacey, will give Texas A&M a chance to win every series this year if they pitch to their potential. Coach Rob Childress announced on, I believe it was Tuesday, that freshman left-hander Jonathan Childress will take the ball on Sundays for the Aggies and be their Game 3 starter. Immensely talented young kid out of Forney, Texas, was a highly projectable NFL draft pick. A&M was lucky to get him on campus, and he's been dynamite in the fall and in this early spring and preseason practices and scrimmages. Really looking forward to seeing how he progresses through this year. And I wrote a column that came out today on TexAgs. You got to get a chance to look at it. It was about just there are basically two household names for Aggie baseball fans on this roster. Now, there's a lot of really good players, but for me, there's two household names that everybody will look at in terms of leading the line from a production standpoint and also leading the clubhouse off the field. And that's sophomore Braden Shoemake and left-handed pitcher John Doxakis, both in their junior seasons. Both have been through the fire. There's nothing they haven't seen in this conference. I'm really interested to see how they take the next step and what the next step looks like. You know, last year Shoemake made his transition from second to short, fielded .955, led the team in chances, the outfield players in chances, fielded .955 over the course of last year. I thought he was pretty good. I thought he was really dadgum good defensively in spurts. But I thought towards the end of the year he really started settling in terms of leading the defense from the shortstop position. And offensively, I know people had questions about Braden last year, but if you go back and look, the only thing that was really down were the power numbers. So how does Braden take that next step and get those power numbers back to where, hovering around double-digit home runs, leading the team in RBI? Maybe last year in his sophomore year he felt like he was trying to do too much early, and then Michael Hellman took the reins, and maybe he felt like there was a competition between he and Hellman of who's supposed to be the best hitter. So to me, for Braden to take the next step has just become an overly simplified version of himself at the plate. He's so gifted as a hitter. He's athletic. He can hit anything that the pitcher throws up there in any spot. And I think last year he got himself in trouble, and you even heard Will Bolt say that on the radio this week, was that Braden gets himself in trouble for hitting pitches that he can hit, not hitting pitches that he should hit. And there's a big difference there. And I think when you press and you really don't understand, you have a great swing, you're finding the barrel a lot, and the power numbers just aren't there. So you start expanding a little bit and pressing because you want to get the big hit, the big double, the big home run. And I don't think the game comes to you as easily. So I think that's all Braden's got to do is make sure know when to take your walks, know when to take your chances in the box. And, maybe if you're in a good count to drive a run in, I'll cheat a little bit and try to get a ball into the railroad tracks. But he's such a gifted and talented player, and eyes are on him. And to me, he's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder this year because the national writers have been a little down on him. I saw even Peter Burns from ESPN, who's a huge Braden Shoemake fan, from Peter Burns from the SEC Network and ESPN, put out his list of top shortstops in the SEC on Twitter and didn't mention Braden. And I don't think that it bothers Braden, but I do think it gives him another chip on his shoulder, and it gives him maybe a sense of urgency or a sense of I'm going to go play with a little bit more attitude. And I think when a guy that's by far your talisman, your leader, your best player, when he plays with that kind of chip on his shoulder, it's infectious to the rest of the guys in the lineup. And I think Braden's bringing a little bit of a chip on his shoulder into this 2019 season. So I'm super excited to see how he manages that and how he manages the clubhouse as the guy. When you bring your front table, when you bring your grandkids to the ballpark, there's one guy they know that they want to get his autograph, and it's Braden Shoemake. And there's one guy that every Aggie fan, every Aggie baseball fan or not Aggie baseball fan knows, and it's Braden Shoemake. So, and I think he understands that. So how he takes that next step and how he manages that will be a big deal. And also the performance of John Doxakis, as now there's no doubt he's the lead dog on Friday nights, and he'll get the ball tomorrow night to kick off the season, and I'm really anxious to see how he kind of helps lead that pitching staff, which is tremendously talented but young and full of left-handers, but also how he has transformed his game as now the number one guy in a powerhouse program in the SEC West as we welcome in Billy Liucci. Luch.
Bronny, what up?
See,
I've got my distance.
You're not even in the shot.
It's all right.
What are you doing?
That's more important. Me not catching whatever you've got is more important than me being in the shot.
I have been a little bit under the weather all week, but I'm kicking it,
right.
Luch.
Did you put these headphones on to test them
yeah,
out?
and I coughed all over them.
Who put them on, really? Because I'll quit the show.
No, it wasn't
me.
I
will come off the air.
I don't put you think I fondle your headphones.
No, I think you put them on to – yeah, what is wrong with you? I think you put them on.
They were talking about Texas at the front table. Made me think of Tom Herman.
I think you put them on to check
to
see if they're working before the show, which would be probably a smart thing to do.
Hey, real quick, and we won't talk about it long, but your expectations for this baseball season. I know a lot of people, even though you're not a baseball analyst and you don't really dive in depth to it, a lot of people like to hear your thoughts on what Rob Childress and then the expectations for Rob Childress in his 13th season here.
Well, I think the expectations have certainly been ratcheted up after, last season. And really, it's just such a – you can't say it. They went to the World Series, but how that season went, you're looking for them to have a kind of a bounce-back regular season, which they haven't had in a couple of years, and then, to have the kind of postseason success they had 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that he has to end up in Omaha to keep a job or anything like that. I'm not saying that. And the reason I even say that is I've seen some speculate that. But I do think this team needs to have a good regular season, maybe exceed expectations, which are pretty low from the outside, so it shouldn't be an impossible task by any stretch. Exceed expectations and make some real noise in the postseason, whether that's advance into a super, or maybe it's taking a higher seed to a third game in that thing. But just a nice postseason run to go with a surprising. And I'm not saying they have to win the SEC or even finish amongst the top three, but exceed expectations and make some real postseason noise.
When you're looking at Braden Shoemake,
host a regional.
Yeah, I think
win a regional.
The talent, like I said to start the show, this talent is certainly there for them to host a regional. Mm-hmm. And from there, you never know what happens. You saw it a couple of years ago when you got the luck of the draw, went to U of H, and then you get to host in the Supers. But in your mind, could Braden Shoemake's career at A&M mimic Travion Williams?
Where he has a really good career and then kind of puts a team.
Yeah.
And not that Travion put the team on his back, but if there was one guy that did, it was him. It was such a team effort last year, which, again, that's what it'll have to be with Shoemake too. But if anyone had the team on his back at different stretches, it was certainly Travion Williams, particularly down the stretch there. I think he helped make everyone around him better. He helped make everyone around him better, you know, when you look at what it did for Kellen and the wide receivers and what, you know, gave the O-line time to kind of gel. So, yeah, I think he could be that kind of guy. I just think
you look
it's
at his
harder.
career, like, he came as a freshman.
But it's harder. Go ahead.
My parallels were he came in as a freshman All-American.
Lit the world on fire.
Both of them did. Sophomore years weren't bad, but they weren't as good as the first year. And then they take off as a third-year player, and you know Travion certainly played his way into a nice draft pick, and it sounds like Shoemake will as well. So if that does mimic, if Shoemake's third year does mimic Travion's, Aggie baseball could be, you know, that could really set them on the right foot to do some things that maybe exceed those expectations you were talking about.
Here's my caveat to that, and I said it a minute ago, but I'll take it even further. Who is that team's defensive line? Who is their Dodson and Alaka? Who is their Eric McCoy? Who's their Jay Sternberger? Who's their Kellen Mond? In other words, Travion did not do it alone. He was the workhorse down the stretch. I thought he was the biggest single key to the turnaround. All those other comparisons you make are right. But Travion did not do it by himself. He could have never done it by himself. That was a team of guys that kind of took their cue from him and the head coach and the culture that was set during the off. But it wasn't. So the question is, how is that supporting cast? Because especially in baseball, when, you know, I know he's in the center of the action there in the middle infield.
The pieces
but
are
in
there.
the lineup, you know, that lineup's got to be as good as y'all are saying it's going to be.
But you've got to have guys take Kingsley Kiki and Dalen Mack type steps. You've got to have Logan Foster continue to develop. You've got to have John Doxakis develop. You've got to have guys come in and make an impact like Bryce Blom, and then the next step for Zach DeLoach. And what I'm saying is, it is kind of similar in that the pieces are there. You've got a headliner. You've actually got a couple of headliners, and then you've got really solid pieces around them. To me, if the Aggie baseball team mimics the success of the Aggie football team in the way they played, they've got a chance to, you know, all you got to do in baseball is get hot at the right time. You know, your season doesn't end abruptly like it does in football. You know, you'll have series to play at the end. So I'm really excited to get out there. I know it's one of your favorite days of the year as much as you'll
I give y'all a hard time because you guys have them winning the national championship every year. And even though the words don't come out, you guys that are listening the other day, I had Brawny, Gabe, and Sandhop all cornered up together, literally the four of us. And I said, so let me guess, y'all each have them going and winning the whole thing, or going to Omaha this year. And they all three said no, but within 60 seconds of each of them saying no, they all explained how it could happen. And it was like you could tell that their baseball it's the sport to be eternally hopeful in. So that is what's fun about it.
A&M fan base has been eternally hopeful for a lot of things.
Yeah, but baseball, I think every fan base around the country that cares can go.
Will you be there tomorrow night?
If this happens and this no, I'm going out of town.
Oh, so you'll miss.
I'm going to miss them playing Fordham.
I feel like you're going to be. You'll
Fordham.
be.
I say that. I don't say that derisively.
Bad, yeah.
They're not bad, and they're also in my backyard.
Bronx,
you know, when we were a little kid, you'd leave on the train and you'd go right. You know, the Fordham was like the next stop from where we live.
Feels like you're going to be at the Minute Maid deal. Probably your first time to sit down. Feels like you're kind of
baseball.
To watch A&M at the Minute Maid.
Why would that be my first time?
It's early in the season. It's a great tournament.
Who do they play next weekend?
I have to look.
Next weekend, Tuesday night games. I mean, I
didn't know you went to midweeks.
I like the midweeks as much as anything. It just
I have the schedule right here.
Midweek's perfect, right after or before dinner.
Liucci's schedule oftentimes
revolves around food. You don't have to look up the schedule. I don't know if that's best radio in the world. Hold on.
Illinois, Chicago. Illinois, Chicago. They got SFA in the midweek. On the other side of the break, we're going to look at Nick Starkel's transfer options as well as
Porter Mosier doesn't come. Or no, that's Loyola, Chicago.
Yeah. We'll look at some Nick Starkel stuff as well as Front Table had some interesting things to say as when we walked in and get Liucci's thoughts on that. Listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on the Zone.
Whether you're in need of your residential or commercial projects, Palisoda Contracting is your expert in the Brazos Valley with over 60 years of combined experience. From demolition and land clearing to underground utility installation, site preparation, and concrete work, Palisoda Contracting is the only call you need to make. Call Ricky at 979-229-8450 for your free estimate and list of local satisfied references today.
For your car, your home, your business too, Acme Glass takes care of you. For over 60 years, we're the clear leader. Our quality and value keeps shining through. For repair and replacement on all kinds of glass, you can trust Acme for quality that lasts. Where quality and value keep shining through, Acme Glass, we're the clear leader.
You need help if you've been charged with a crime. The justice system is daunting. You need an experienced defense lawyer to obtain the best results for you. Steve Gustitis, attorney at law, has been helping people fight criminal charges for over 20 years. Call Steve Gustitis now to schedule your free consultation. 823-9111. Qualified people are ready to take your call. Let Steve Gustitis put his experience to work for you. 823-9111. Visit GustitisLaw.com today and get the help that you need.
Pamper your skin and the skin of those you love this Valentine's Day with a service or two from Pure Bliss Spa. Look to Pure Bliss for gifts that keep on giving, like the gift of laser hair removal or the Let It Glow facials. Make the massage, aromatherapy, and chemical pill gifts be the one they thank you for year-round. Make time for yourself this Valentine's Day, too, with fillers and Botox. Relax, refresh, renew with the help of Pure Bliss. Gift cards available. Call 704-3083.
Folks are always looking for a place to meet friends, grab some food, relax, and unwind with a cold beer, mixed drink, or glass of Boots sweet tea. The Tap on Harvey Road has been the place to do just that for nearly 30 years. A casual atmosphere and tasty food keeps people coming back for more. Our burgers, salads, chicken tenders, nachos, and more are sure to satisfy whatever craving you have. And being in SEC country, the Tap is a great place to meet before, during, or after the game. See you at the Tap on Harvey Road in College Station.
Hi, I'm Nate Bender, host of Checkpoint XP, gaming radio for gamers by gamers. Join me and my friends every Saturday night at 10 here on Sports Radio 1150 and the Zone 102.7 FM as we talk about the latest news and events from around the world of video games and the esports scene. Every Saturday night from 10 till midnight, you can hear Checkpoint XP here on the Zone, or you can catch us on demand at the Pod Center at zone1150.com.
Welcome back to the Beliucci Hour lunch. Thursday, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to you and yours out there if you're celebrating with your special person in your life. I hope you enjoy that and enjoy your day. Luch, you have a Valentine?
All right, I don't know what the hell you just stumbled into and couldn't pull yourself out of.
I don't have a Valentine, so it's difficult for me to talk about it.
Difficult for you to put into words. Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you, Brawny. So if you want to go on a hot Valentine's dinner, I'm there.
Well,
no, I'm going on a what everybody does on Valentine's Day. They go on a guy's trip to Vegas with a bunch of married dudes. That's what I'm doing on Valentine's. So they're all doing their thing tonight with their Valentines, and then we're all going to Vegas. So.
That'll be a good time.
I'm doing my Valentine's next week in Dallas because this trip kind of got in the way of that for tonight.
Things start coming out. Nick Stark will going to visit Arkansas and Florida State. Florida State, not so much of a big deal, but could you see a situation where he lands with a conference rival?
I would predict that'll be where he ends up from just comfort level, not far from home. This whole Chad Morris thing, and it's why I hate this transfer stuff now, because I'm going to have to root against Nick Starkel. I never thought I'd say
1 week a year.
No, not 1 week a year. I don't want Arkansas to win games, period. I want Nick to throw for 4,000 yards and Arkansas to not win games. I don't know how that would work out. So I'm sorry.
He'd be the most talented guy on their roster.
I'm sorry if I'm not playing the nice guy, the good Aggie here, and my God, it's the kids. We got to care about the kid. I like Nick. I'll like Nick. I'll see him and give him a big hug every time I see him from now until he's, from now till forever. But on the football field, I will root for a lot of individual success, but a lot of Arkansas, Chad Morris, John Chavis losses if he's on that team, just like I do. And now, that's just the thing. So don't go to Arkansas and go to Florida State where we can root for you every week.
Boy, but you got to wonder if he goes to Florida State after seeing what Taggart did to Francois in 1 year.
Oh,
his development would be better under Chad Morris.
The difference is there's Kendall Briles in that offense. Now, do I think Chad Morris is better than Kendall Briles? Yes. Mm-hmm. But Kendall Briles in that offense and probably the talent around him more so than what he's going to have at Arkansas, that talent around him will be better compared to the majority of the ACC than will that Arkansas talent level, which is still – bottom tier of the conference that they're in their division. But I don't want to see – I would love to not see Nick Starkel at Arkansas. Now, the other thing is, the SMU starter, Ben Hicks, with a lot of experience, is going over there to play, and he's a Chad Morris recruit. He was in a Chad Morris system. I mean – if you go compete with that and you're behind because he's not going to get there till
they're actually
summer.
Rated on the same level coming out of high school, too. Remember, Nick was an underrated guy coming here.
If you go there and don't win that job, then your football days are done, essentially. I mean, yeah, you could do – but Nick's got so much other stuff going for him in life that if you don't play in college, your career is probably done no matter how good your arm is. So – you got to be careful and make the right pick here if you're Starkel. Make the right pick. But I would hate to see, honestly, and win or lose, I would hate to see Nick Starkel take the field against Texas A&M. It just wouldn't feel right.
It'd feel different.
I would hate to see him do anything, to help Arkansas and Tipton's boy Chad Morris get their foot in because I think in that SEC West, you want every team that's beneath you to stay beneath you. You don't want to see anyone make a move. It's a perfect timing with, I think, Mississippi State's going to fall off. I think Ole Miss is going to fall off, even though they're still clearly paying players, in my opinion. They're not going to be what they were under their best coach ever, either of those programs. So you need some breaks in this division, in this league. LSU's still going to be really good, but I still think you're getting an X's and O's break with Ed O. And just in terms of just game management and coaching, and you saw it last year when he lost to Jimbo. But I just would rather not see him playing in Fayetteville. And here's the other part about that. Arkansas, there's a little too much of this BS for my taste. Chad Morris won't mention A&M like a total weirdo. John Chavis left out of here as bitter as any coach I've seen leave here. All the way down to complaining about TexAgs and everything else. The most bitter guy I've seen leave this place in all my years of covering it. And wants to beat A&M that bad. They're starting running back. Played at A&M. I don't think he left on bad terms. I think he just couldn't, that was kind of what he had to do for the betterment of it. He needed a change of venue, a change of atmosphere, environment. It's worked out great for Rakeem. He wants to beat A&M in the worst way. And then you have a team that's lost 7 years in a row to Texas A&M. I mean, all the way down to Jeff Traylor, who wanted this A&M job, wanted the special teams job, and A&M went with Tim Brewster.
Devois Whaley,
who wanted to play at Texas A&M. Jordan Traylor, Jeff's son, who used to work here, left to be a GA at Texas, which was a weird deal to leave there and leave to go to Texas. It just, the whole thing is a bunch of people, Bronny, that want nothing more than to beat your school. Nothing more than to beat your university, nothing more. So
I think Nick Starkel makes them more viable, too.
I can't get on board with that. Yeah. Oh, and from a football standpoint, that's why I said I think if he wins that job, and it's an if, then he would certainly make them better, make them more dynamic in the passing game, do more of what Chad Morris wants to do. He'll make them a better football team, no question.
The thing that Hicks would have the advantage
I prefer to see him
is,
at FSU for a lot of reasons.
Sure, and the depth chart at FSU is non-existent. I mean, he'd walk in there and really have a chance to play. Going to turn the page.
Plus, it'd be bad. I'll be honest, and this is just the truth. And a lot of people don't like to hear the truth these days. And oh, Billy's the bad guy. I'll play the bad guy again here, and I'll say there are a lot of Aggies that would low-key have some weird level of satisfaction to say, I told you so, if A&M lost to a Nick. I mean, and that's pitiful, and that's disgusting, and I don't want to be disgusted with fans that think and act that way. So from that standpoint, too, I'd rather avoid it.
Yep. On the other side of the break, I want to talk Bobby Brown. I want to talk about we got to one of the topics that I wanted to bring up from the front table, but I want to go to the second one. So a lot more to get to on this Thursday edition of Beliucci Hour Lunch, live on The Zone.
From News Talk 1620 WTAW, I'm Chelsea Reber with a news update on Sports Radio 1150 in The Zone 102.7 FM. The focus of pursuing a YMCA in the Twin Cities could change tomorrow. College Station Mayor Carl Mooney says the Houston YMCA board has a meeting to consider releasing BCS from its control. Mooney says land has already been reserved in College Station's new Midtown development east of the freeway between Fitch and Rock Prairie.
What we would try to do is then gather funds here. And we believe that there are some real reasons now for our community to have a family-oriented recreation center.
Speaking on WTAW, Mooney says an independent board would be composed of partners in the project. Details of a settlement have been released that will lead to dismissing a lawsuit against the city of Bryan by the parent company of Austin-based adult novelty store Planet K.
The 59-page document obtained by WTAW News through an open records request to the city is available online at WTAW.com. Among other things, Planet K agrees to complete changes to its front yard sign, its building, and its driveway by March 9th. City agrees to dismiss 34 municipal charges, accusing Planet K, among other things, of violating the city's building code, sign regulations, and soliciting without a permit. And both sides will pay for their own expenses. All this is after Planet K sued the city and the city's Board of Zoning Adjustments last November in an attempt to do business inside its building on Texas south of Villa Maria. Bill Oliver, News Talk 1620 WTAW.
A survey worker along Interstate 45 near Madisonville was struck by a semi and killed yesterday. DPS trooper Jimmy Morgan says the reason the northbound semi went onto the shoulder, hitting the survey worker from McKinney, remains under investigation. Northbound traffic was diverted to the service road for more than 2 hours. The trucker from Oklahoma was not injured. I'm Chelsea Reber on Sports Radio 1150 and the Zone 102.7 FM.
The George Bush Presidential Library and Museum is proud to announce its newest exhibit, Spies, Traitors, and Saboteurs, Fear and Freedom in America, opening February 19th through May 20th. This special exhibit opened at the International Spy Museum on May 2004 and began its tour around the U.S. in February of 2006. The exhibit provides historic perspective on acts of terror that have taken place on American soil. For more information, visit bush41.org and click on the Events tab.
Hi, I'm Nate Bender, host of Checkpoint XP, gaming radio for gamers by gamers. Join me and my friends every Saturday night at 10 here on Sports Radio 1150 and the Zone 102.7 FM as we talk about the latest news and events from around the world of video games and the esports scene. Every Saturday night from 10 till midnight, you can hear Checkpoint XP here on the Zone, or you can catch us on demand at the Pod Center at zone1150.com.
Need more cowbell. Blue Oyster Cult bringing you back. Don't fear the Reaper. Ryan Brauninger, Billy Liucci with you. Beliucci Hour Lunch live from here at the Tap on Harvey Road. Check out the Tap's great lunch menu. Don't forget Monday nights, karaoke Wednesday nights, piano bar now Tuesdays and Fridays, I believe. Crawfish here beginning at 6 p.m. at the Tap. Crawfish Tuesdays and Crawfish Fridays beginning to be crawfish season. Looking forward to that. Luch, I showed you this video, and you said you hadn't seen it, so I just showed it to you during one of the breaks earlier. But Aggie Athletics put out a National Signing Day 2019 breakdown where they had Steve McGee and Jimbo Fisher in to break down the recruits, similar to what we did on on TexAgs, but they also did a three-player panel with 3 sophomores. Jay-Sean Corbin.
Learfield's always one step behind us.
Yikes! I don't know where
they
you're
try.
going with
They
that.
try to roadblock us all the time, so sometimes they could get called out for that.
Jay-Sean Corbin, Leon O'Neal, and Bobby Brown in studio with Will Johnson, who's doing the interview. And I told you, like, I had to scratch my eyes looking at Bobby Brown. It looked like he was blown up on the phone, and everybody else was zoomed way out.
Yeah,
and you've been talking about this kid
good.
about like how he's transforming himself. Like
there
hasn't been a guy that looks like that at A&M in a while.
I like what.
It's like a Red.
I like what Aggie Athletics is doing with, or 12th Man, whatever 12th Man Productions is doing with the athletes, because and Brent talks about it all the time. If you want to get something to know these kids, and if these entities like Learfield and IMG, and they're going to restrict that kind of stuff, not just at A&M but across the country, to where. A&M does as good a job as I believe they can in terms of access to players and stuff. Like there's a certain – I think a lot of times media complains too much in this regard because there's only so much time in a week for these kids to come and do interviews, So if us and the Eagle and the Chronicle and the Morning News and
KBTX,
every other website, KBTX, KAGS, and everybody wanted, say whoever the superstar, if Kellen Mond is a Heisman candidate or you mentioned Bobby Brown, if he's like if he's another Myles Garrett. Everybody wants their one-on-one, sit-down exclusive, what's your favorite movie and what's your, tell us your story. And I get that. Everybody wants it. You can't – I had one little strategy for that a couple of years ago where maybe every week they do one of those. And it's like an extra 10 minutes to their whole
I didn't know
deal.
I was getting you on a rant. I was going to talk to you
kind
about
of a rant.
Bobby,
It's not really an angry rant. So if you're not going to have that anymore in today's age of college football. Again, like I think we get plenty of access. Some people have a problem with no coordinators. I don't care about that. Like I'm perfectly fine with that. John Chavis got all bent out of shape about it and kind of pulled himself out of it that last year, and I think everyone blamed Sumlin for doing that. It was because the coordinator didn't want to do it. So as time goes on, like I don't think that's necessary to sit there. I mean, I think when you have the head coach that comes in there and makes itself as accommodating as Jimbo Fisher does and is as open and forthcoming and sits there for a long period of time every week and talks, that's all well and good. But what you don't get because of – and, again, this is today's college football thing because everyone's owned by a Learfield, by an IMG, and there's a certain amount that you don't have a say in it. That's why I could not interview, Kevin Sumlin week after week after week because it becomes like a regular thing, and they do that and sponsor it. They pay a lot of money for that. But when it comes down to there's still got to be a way to get to know the kids and get to know the personalities of the kids outside of just the press conference setting, and I think that's where 12th Man Productions in the last couple of years has done just a better and better and better job of, if you're an A&M fan, being able to sit there and watch their content and get to know those kids. And that piece that you're talking about was really cool. And not only was it really cool, but then you also get to your point, which was there's Bobby Brown, who I talked about the other day, where he might weigh 330 pounds. He looks like Ty Warren did.
That's a good example.
When Ty Warren was a few years into the NFL. That's what he looks like. Yep. He's bigger than Ty ever was at A&M.
He's more trimmed up than Red Bryant ever was.
Yeah.
But Red was that big
Red was that size.
Yeah.
Like, they're similar dimensionally. But, yeah, Bobby Brown is he ain't fat.
How he carries that.
He is not fat. He carries it extremely well. He's just a larger human being than most. He's getting into that, he's not as big as this guy, and he doesn't need to be, but, he's like a Leonard Davis in that he's just a really, really large human being. And he'll make a ton of money playing on the defensive line, and he is going to be a dominant player at A&M. If you put him alongside
other dudes that look like him
and Peavy, I'm saying like what they could have this year on the inside. But I'm just saying I'm not promoting this because I think he's a difference maker. He could also make many, many millions of dollars probably playing offensive tackle in the NFL for 20 years too. But he's a D lineman that dudes are going to have a nightmare blocking
in this interview,
and you can move him around.
His interview, Will Johnson asked him about the influence that last year's seniors had on him, and he said that it's interesting to me. He said Landis Durham was harder on me than anybody.
Really?
He said every day at practice he was like, give me more. You got more. You're too big. You're too athletic to be getting slowed down or not playing as hard. So in Bobby's mind, he goes, I told him I'm giving you everything I got. Landis like, no, there's more. There's more. And he goes, it finally all clicked around that LSU week. I had the best week of practice I ever had, and I played, I graded out the best in that game that I'd done. He goes, so really it was Landis, because he was asked, I believe the question was about Kingsley and how he could be inside and outside like Kingsley, but he said that Landis had the biggest influence on him. And, all those guys there, and Leon talked about Donovan, and Jay Sean obviously talked about Travion. And those, I think, and I talked to Leon at a 7-on-7 event where he said, the knowledge that I've gained from being around Donovan and being around Coach Elko and being in the meeting rooms and just having to watch, to set your ego aside and say I'm not the best player anymore, and having to watch and learn. He goes, if I could go back and do high school again, I'd be number 5-star, number 1 recruit in the country because I know so much more. So the influence those guys have, and just like Jimbo Fisher said, you're leaving a legacy here. The legacy of this senior class will be the advancement and the next level of game for Leon and Bobby and Jay Sean and all those sophomores.
Yeah, no,
sophomores to be.
And that's the one thing why it was so important for Jimbo Fisher to be able to set a culture this year and have those seniors and the guys that left early, the veterans, buy in like they did. That was why that was so important, because you're not going to have a lot of senior leadership this year. You'll have some veterans, but it's got to come from somewhere, and you wonder where's it going to come from. And will Corbin be ahead of schedule because he played alongside Travion? It's got to come from Kellen. It's got to come from, Jamon. It sounds like, according to, Jimbo, that Jamon's always a tone setter in that receiver room, so he has to do that. And then, somewhere along the defense, they're going to have to find that, and there's not a lot of veteran guys. Matt Abike
Buddy
is one, Buddy Johnson. I mean, but there ain't a lot. And so, again, that's going to have to come from just culture that those guys helped Jimbo and his staff set. Jerry Schmidt's going to work on that this entire offseason. I've heard really good things lately about Michael Clemens as just a guy that's just a different guy right now than he was a year ago, just in terms of his energy and his vocal leadership and just trying to be vocal and trying to be involved and be at the front of the lines and just little things like that where you're going to need these older guys to do, or if they're younger guys doing it, they need to be among your best players. And I as that goes on, I had asked Kellen at one point if he's going to go out and train with anybody this offseason quarterback-wise. He said, maybe, but I don't know. He wants to spend as much time as he can throwing with his receivers this summer. That's a veteran quarterback.
Interesting you said that, because in that interview, Jimbo said, I've heard Kellen more than I ever had.
Yeah.
Whether he's in 7-on-7 workouts, whether he's in the weight room, because I talked to Coach Schmidt. He even says, I'm hearing Kellen more. He's taking more ownership of this entire thing. And I think whenever you lose the quality of players like you have, that is big to overcome, that quality. But the depth and the talent on this roster is good enough to do it. I think for A&M fans, the biggest question you need to ask is –
some places the depth isn't, but I think that the frontline talent is.
I think the question A&M fans need to ask most is, how do we replace them from a leadership standpoint? How do you replace – Travion and Eric McCoy's work ethic? How do you replace Donovan's leadership and OT's leadership and Dalen's personality? That stuff's so important to a locker room.
How do you replace Eric McCoy busting up his knee and being out there 7 days later at Alabama going up against
Is he the best
Quentin
center
Williams.
you've watched at A&M? You've seen a lot of good ones.
And Tipton says he's the best pulling one he's ever seen. I would say that probably has as much to do with the system and giving him the chance to do it. I would say, yeah, Bronny. I would say, yeah. I mean, Pat Lewis was really good. Seth McKinney was outstanding.
He walrused himself into the end.
The walrus was outstanding. Chris Dowson was one of the toughest dudes ever to put on the A&M uniform. That's kind of started my era. Guy by the name of, what was his name? Brandon. We ran into him at the Alabama game this year. But I've seen some good ones come through. But yeah, I think Eric
in terms of
McCoy
checking all the boxes.
I think Eric McCoy. If you made me pick one, I think I'd pick Eric McCoy. I'd be interested to hear what Steve would say, not Seth, because Seth's going to be but Seth's going to be modest and say he's better than him.
He cleaned up the snaps. That was his only issue.
I think
was the
Seth
snap.
would have been second, and he wasn't in a system that really got to show how good he was until his junior year.
You go watch some of these.
I
big
wish he would
runs.
have. I mean,
he was so good.
I wish he would have come back, maybe more so than any of those guys, in terms of what it would have meant for the O-line and the running game. And it's one of those deals where they could have had that O-line looking so good that even though you lost Travion, Corbin and some other guys are plenty talented enough to run behind a line like that. And Corbin's talent, from just a pure talent standpoint, he's every bit as good as Travion.
Oh, no question.
Now, and he's more explosive. Now, there are things Travion does better too, but the question is Corbin – and his work ethic's outstanding, so that's a great place to start. But is he going to be able to do?
Can he pick up the blitzes?
And with Travion, it was one of those deals where you watch his senior year, and I was talking to a longtime football coach the other day about it. He said he never took a clean hit. It's he said it's a lot like Emmitt Smith, where you go back and look at this whole season. And rarely, he always took the glancing blow. And the difference this year in Travion is he also would deliver the finishing blow, which I think allowed him to finish that and the system. Look, A&M's best defense this year wore number 5 and
64.
Number 64 and the guy calling all the shots on the sideline in the headset, Jimbo Fisher. The style of play. And no one's probably more grateful for that than Mike Elko, who, the defensive talent was still, even though they had those good players up front, it was still not where the offensive talent is.
On the other side of the break, we'll close the show with your question from here at the tech. You listen to Beliucci Hour Lunch live on the Zone. Might be one of my favorite chili peppers.
Well, you didn't really fit well with California, did you?
No, but I like the
California did not.
I don't like. I like the scenery. I like the weather. Beautiful, beautiful. We went to Venice Beach, and I could not have been friends with one person there.
They'd all kicked your ass.
It's It's the 180 of the tap. I'd be friends with everybody here.
Nobody there.
Nobody on Venice Beach.
I heard you freaked out a little bit on that trip.
Who would you have talked to that went with me?
Alex, Kat.
No. Oh, that was okay. That was a different trip. We didn't go to Venice Beach on that one.
Y'all went to West Hollywood.
Well,
yeah,
that's where Alex Parker has all of her friends, and I don't have very many.
Yeah.
So, walked into the place that Alex took us, and I almost bumped chest with Ron Jeremy. Just wild scenes in that place. Glad I said I did
you only bumped chests with him.
Yikes, man! What is your?
I mean,
Valentine's Day, boy. Love
is in the air with you and Ron Jeremy.
Bronny and Liucci, what is your
Jeremy?
What is your initial impression of our new coaches, strong recruiters and/or strong teachers of the game?
Oh, I think both. I mean, go look at Elijah Robinson. I mean, look at how Dalen Mack and Matabike and Kiki, when he was inside, those guys played this year. And then look, I think he and Joe John. You heard what Jay Sternberger said on our radio show about Joe John Finley. And you look, I like the young energy on the recruiting front with Linguist and Robinson and Finley and now Josh Henson, and then also the veterans. Even though they're not old, I don't think they're older than me. They're younger than me by a year or two.
TP's going to come up here.
TP's old, all right? I'm talking about, Damian Craig and Jay Graham, probably around my age, and but they've been doing it a long time. They're veterans. Pivito, Dickey especially, Terry Price. So you've got a really nice mix, I think, of veterans and a lot of good young energy and guys that are really determined to prove themselves at this level. And then I'm just going to tell you, I don't think Jimbo Fisher will ever hire a guy that's just a recruiter. I don't ever see that happening. I don't think he has a place for that. He's not intimidated in the offensive room by adding people with vision and ideas and experience. I mean, you look at Daryl Dickey.
Yeah.
You look at I mean, who else has he added?
Well, Josh Henson was an
offensive
coordinator.
was a SEC East champion OC play caller. So to add those kind of guys to the mix and then defensively, I just don't think you're ever going to see him just add a guy, hey, this guy's going to really upgrade our recruiting. I think every staff addition he has to make and makes, it's going to be.
Is he even looking at us? DB out of South Lake Carroll. Yeah, he is, but A&M is currently, like you've said so many times, where they're at with defensive back recruiting is they've got to be particularly specific on what they go after and what they want. And I'm not saying that RJ's way down the list, but there's just so many guys near the top. I think RJ grew up liking A&M a whole lot, but he never, in his mind, he was never for sure this is 1,000% where I'm going. And Ray's not going to make him do something he doesn't want to do. It's not Ray's recruitment. That's what a good parent should do.
Yeah, I agree. But now I think if you really want the player and you got to figure out how to get a legacy, one of your all-time great sons at A&M. But the problem is right now with – not a problem, but it's something that Jimbo and Austin Thomas and the recruiting team and coaches have to navigate through is going to be you got 2 commits already. Again, you could have snapped your fingers coming out at junior day and probably had 4. And then where are you at?
3 for sure.
You could have had 4, but I'm saying you could have had 4 by Valentine's Day if you'd have pushed in the right places. And then not only does it give you less spots to fill, maybe only 1, maybe at most 2 the rest of the way for almost a year, but it also those guys that you do really covet that are still out there, it puts a target on your back where the other schools can say, hey, they've got 4 DBs committed already. We can go be the 5th. We only have 1. We need so it hurts your efforts as well.
Optics, yep.
So what's going to happen is A&M is going to miss out on some good players along the way to filling out this DB class. And they might be players. They're going to be guys that could play at A&M and could play well. And they might be guys that, in hindsight, A&M is going to look back and go, yeah, we could have taken him. But they're going to get 4, probably 5, I'd say 5, really good players because of the patience. And you got to understand that when a kid is ready to come, and I'm not talking about R.J. Mickens because he hadn't tried to commit to A&M or anybody else for that matter, but my point is what they're doing right now is they've got to be very, very particular in the secondary. And because of that, there'll be a guy or two that kind of falls falls out of love with A&M and in love with other schools, and you probably miss your chance. You won't be able to go back and get them. But those are just risks you have to take in your quest to load up in the secondary and put together an even better class than the one you just signed.
Liucci, good stuff. Enjoy Vegas. We'll see you guys next week. Right. Enjoy opening day tomorrow. Yep. Beliucci Hour lunch. Louis on the other side.
Fordham.
Folks are always looking for a place to meet friends, grab some food, relax, and unwind with a cold beer, mixed drink, or glass of Boots